Was wirst du so bang dein Gesicht? Siehst Vater, du den Erlenkönig nicht. Den Erlenkönig mit Kron und Schweif. Mein Sohn, es ist ein Nebelstreif. Du liebes Kind, komm, geh mit mir. Gar schöne Spiele spiel ich mit dir. Manchmal Blumen sind an dem Strand. Meine Mutter hat...
I'm a dragon. I'm gonna tell a joke for my good friend Scary Haggis. What do you call a haunted chicken? Wait. It's a poultrygeist.
Hey guys, Scary Haggis here, and we are saved! Well, you heard that right. You tuned in and the dolls are saved. Thank you so much. I definitely did not just throw them. Now, let's get started with story time. Well, we have two very long stories today. One is called The Tall Woman, and one is a story written by our very own Johnny Chandler. The one who has a doll made up next to me. This doll. Except she's not a doll, she's a real person, but she has a doll made of her. Just gonna clear that out. So let's get started on The Tall Woman. There once was a guy, there once was a cold and stormy evening, but a guy was reading through a magazine trying to look at things and have magical ideas to write in. He and a couple of his friends were writing a movie, and they had to get ideas. Sometimes I just look at random things for inspiration. I mean Johnny Chandler does. Why did I say I? I'm weird. But anyway, so he sees a creepy model in a fashion clothes. She has dark maroon eyes, and she has a very pale skin. She's almost like 6 feet tall by her looks. He gets really freaked out and he goes to bed. The time on the clock says 3 a.m. So now, the next morning, it's not the next morning, it's a couple weeks later, like a week or two later. He's with all the friends. They have the script fully written, and they're looking at 3 letters. They're from people auditioning for the lead role. The first letter they open is the creepy model, or as we will call her, the tall woman. They open the next one, and it's a beautiful woman that looks exactly how they want it for the role. They cast her for the role. It's a couple weeks later. They got everything set up. They're filming one of the scenes with the lead role and the creepy woman that they did cast. They decided to cast her in case, I don't know, something creepy. The tall woman sits in the car next to the lead actress. They get to the location. A few hours pass. They're deciding to have a dinner break. She runs into the forest and in a creepy demonic voice says, "Time for dinner." And then the girl who plays the lead character runs after her. It's a couple hours past. It's like 10 p.m. now. Or not 10 p.m., 8 p.m. And they get a little worried and they walk into the woods. They see blood every single place. There's blood on stones, blood on trees. They look around for a while. They see nothing. Then they see a tore off arm. Its blood still shooting out. They look up in the sky, and there they see the tall woman standing over her. Then she's like 10 feet tall now, and every single time she eats, she gets taller and taller and taller and taller. Bah! Did I scare you? I don't know if I did. But moving on to our next story.
What do birds say on Halloween? Trick or treat! Why did the ghost go into the bar? For the booze!
called Johnny's Story. We are going to pretend to read it out of here because it just looks cooler that way, even though Johnny told me this story. And why would the story be in the Grimm Fairy Tale book? I don't know. But let's pretend we're reading it so it looks cool. Okay, now for Johnny's story. It was a dark and stormy evening. I was reading some creepypastas, and I'm saying I as Johnny. I'm not Johnny. Or am I? No, I'm not. Bird just hit the window. Kind of creepy. So it was a dark and stormy evening. You know, I'm just going to look at the camera. It was a dark and stormy night. I'm just going to say I as Johnny. I was in bed, enjoying some nice creepypastas. I come across one called Squidward's Suicide. I look at it, and then I look at the time. It's 11 p.m. I should be getting to bed. I have school in the morning. This story was written about the time when she was in public school. She's homeschooled now. Just to stop any confusion from people who've been told, I'm homeschooled. I'm in public school. Not to mix it up. This is when she was in public school. Now she's in homeschool. Okay? So no confusion. No confusion there. So she had school the next morning. Well, I'm going to say as I go to school, and at the end of the day, every day, while we wait for the buses to get in, the teacher lets us play on the Chromebooks, which all there really is to do is just literally watch YouTube. So I looked on YouTube and I found the creepypasta again. I gathered some kids from around school to creep them out. It was pretty creepy. So first it's just Squidward crying at the edge of his bed. He looks out the window and says one of his super annoying sighs that are like, or however he sighs, because he's just super annoying. He looks at his clarinet and snaps it in half on his leg. Then his eyes turn red for some reason. Next, there's a couple of things that would be too disturbing to say on Facebook. I don't know. I guess saying the word I don't know. I just don't want to take the chance because it's not that disturbing. It just talks about firearms and suicide, and I don't know if it would take us off Facebook for doing that. So I can't say it. So after that, I was really creeped out. I decided to watch another creepypasta to not creep myself out some more, to get confused, I guess. I don't know. This one was called Sonic.exe. Now I love Sonic. I play it all the time. Sonic is an amazing game. And I'm just like, creepypasta. The story is a friend gets a letter from a friend with a CD. And basically, the letter says, "Hi, I don't have much time to write this. Please destroy the CD. But do not even think about playing this, or he will come to you too. He is after me. Destroy it while you can." And then he decides, breaking the rules, to play the game because he's a huge Sonic fan. So he plays the game. It shows 3 characters: Tails, Knuckles, and Dr. Robotnik, which was weird because that's a character you cannot play. So he goes into the game. He chooses Tails. He sees a creepy Sonic with black eyes with intense red dots staring, a creepy smile, and blood on his hands. In one hand, gloveless and sharp nails. Well, actually, sharp, like no nails, but like blue fur, but like it's sharp or something. I don't know how to describe it. And then he chases Tails. Tails sees dead animals everywhere. It's pretty creepy. Tails gets caught and killed. Next is Knuckles. Knuckles has his usual map, and he gets chased and killed again. Then Dr. Robotnik. Again, Dr. Nick is at his usual point. He's flying in his evil thing, and he gets killed again. And then but then the guy gets creeped out. He takes the CD out. He's like, yeah, I need to destroy this. This is pretty creepy. And then behind him, he hears, ah, or however, like, aha. It's like, I don't know. You just have to look up like evil Sonic laugh.sonic.exe because it's actually it's kind of interesting and it'd be nice to listen to. Not nice. I don't know what I'm saying. And it's really creepy, and then he looks behind him, and he sees his Sonic plushie turned into the Sonic.exe, sitting on his bed, saying, you wouldn't destroy it if I were you. Or I wouldn't destroy it if I were you. And then the creepypasta ends. So, I get really creeped out, because it's like, wow, that's pretty creepy. And then I go home that day and read a creepypasta called Ben Drowned. It's about Zelda. So basically this guy finds an old Zelda cartridge somewhere and he plays it, and basically everything's normal at first. He's having a lot of fun, and then creepy character that looks like Link's is named Ben behind him, and then he keeps following him around, really creepy. Oh my gosh. For a second, I literally just saw a creepy smile on the camera, but it was just my imagination. Oh my gosh, that scared me. That scared me so bad. So basically, he clicks on the Ben character because he has something to say, and he says, I drowned. Ben drowned. I drowned while playing this game. He stole me. He kidnapped me, and he drowned me. And then that's the creepypasta. I spent hours researching it because it was really creepy. The next night I went to bed. Or that night. I went to bed that night. I couldn't sleep much, but I still managed to drop asleep. The next day at school, during when I'm doing schoolwork on the Chromebook, basically a notification pops up from Sonic.exe, Ben, and Squidward. And it says, I'll see you in your nightmares. And then I hear the creepy laugh again. Like, ha 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 ha. Or, I can't do the laugh. But it's playing in my mind over and over again while that happens, even though it only played once. I asked if anyone else heard that, but then no one else was there. Everyone disappeared while I received the message. I turned the Chromebook off and I threw it across the room. I was really freaked out. And then all of a sudden, I wake up and I realize it was just a dream. Okay, that's all for now. But, is it over? Was it just a dream? Will they see me in my nightmares? Hey guys. Yeah, why did I do that? Right now, we're reading a story called The Wendigo. Now, I know there's two types of Wendigos. Wendigos from a game called Until Dawn, and Wendigos that are like weird antler creatures. I'm thinking this is going to be more like the Wendigos from Until Dawn because it's talking about like pale men. And a Wendigo in Until Dawn, I don't know much about other Wendigos, but I play Until Dawn a lot. And the Wendigos in Until Dawn, basically they have pale skin, they have pale eyes, and basically they eat humans. They can't see stillness. So if you stay, let's say you're a Wendigo right now. You couldn't see me, but let's say, I don't know, let's say someone's like, the Wendigo can see them, right? Well, now let's read it. A wealthy man wanted to go hunting in a part of northern Canada where few people have ever hunted. He traveled to a trading post and tried to find a guide to take him, but no one would do it. It was too dangerous, they said. Finally, he found an Indian who needed money badly, and he agreed to take him. The Indian's name was Defago. They made camp in the snow near a large frozen lake. For 3 days they hunted, but nothing but they had nothing to show for it. The third night, a windstorm came up. They lay in their tent, listening to the wind howling and the trees whipping back and forth. To see the storm better, the hunter opened the tent flap. What he saw startled him. There wasn't a breath of air stirring, and the trees weren't standing perfectly still, yet he could hear the wind howling. And the more he listened, the more it sounded as if it were calling Defago's name. Defago, it called. Defago. I must be losing my mind, the hunter thought, but Defago has gone out of his sleeping bag and huddled into the corner of the tent, his head buried in his arms. What's all this about? The hunter asked. It's nothing, Defago said, but the wind continued to call him, and Defago became more tense and more restless. Defago, it called. Defago. Suddenly, he jumped to his feet and began to run from the tent. But the hunter grabbed him and wrestled him to the ground. You can't leave me out here, the hunter shouted. But the wind called again, and Defago broke loose and ran into darkness. The hunter could hear him screaming as he went. Again and again he cried, "Oh, my fiery feet, the burning feet of fire." Then his voice faded away, the wind died down. At daybreak, the hunter followed Defago's tracks in the snow. They went through the woods, down towards the lake, then out onto the white ice. But soon he had noticed something strange. The steps Defago had taken got longer and longer. They were so long, no human being could have taken them. It was as if something had helped him to hurry away. The hunter followed the tracks out to the middle of the lake, but they disappeared. At first he thought Defago had fallen through the ice, but that wasn't any hole. Then he thought that something had pulled him off the ice into the sky, but that made no sense. As he stood wondering what happened, the wind picked up again. Soon it was howling as it had that night. Then he heard Defago's voice. It was coming from up above, and then he heard Defago screaming, "My feet, my fiery feet, my burning feet." But there was nothing to be seen. Now the hunter wanted to leave that place as fast as he could. He went back to camp and packed. Then he left some food for Defago and started out. Weeks later, he reached civilization. There we go. The following year, he went back to hunt in the area again. He went to the same trading post to look for a guide. The people there could not explain what happened to Defago that night, but they had not seen him since then. Maybe it was the Wendigo, one of them said. It's supposed to come with the wind. It drags you along at great speed until your feet are burning away, and more of you than that. It carries you into the sky. It drops you. But it's just a crazy story. But that's what a few Indians say. A few days later, the hunter was at a trading post. An Indian came in and sat by the buyer. He had a blanket wrapped around his face, and he wore a hat so you couldn't see his face. The hunter thought there was something familiar about him. He walked over and said, "Are you Defago?" The Indian didn't answer. "Do you know anything about him?" No answer. He began to wonder if something was wrong, if the man needed help, but he couldn't see his face. "Are you all right?" he asked. No answer. To get a look at him, he lifted the Indian's hat. Then he screamed. There is nothing but a hat under the hat, but a pile of ashes. Just gonna do that to scare you. I kind of burst my eardrums. Oh well, time for another story.
What do you call a witch who lives at the beach? A sandwich. Why don't mummies take vacations? Because they don't want to relax and unwind.
What did the skeleton order at the restaurant? Spare ribs.
This one is called The Window. Bum, bum, bum. Margaret and her brothers, Paul and David, shared a small house on top of a hill. just outside the village. It was so warm one summer night that Margaret could not sleep. She sat up in the bed across the darkness in the sky. What? She sat up in the bed in the darkness of her room, watching the moon move across the sky. Suddenly, something caught her eye. She saw 2 small yellow-green lights moving through the woods near the graveyard at the bottom of the hill. They looked like the eyes of some animal, but she could not make out what the creature was. Soon, the creature left the woods and moved up the hill towards the house. For a few minutes, Margaret lost sight of it. Then she saw it coming across the lawn. It looked like something like a man, but yet it didn't. Was terrified. She wanted to run from her room, but her door was next to her window. She was afraid the creature would see her and break in before she could escape. When the creature turned around and moved in another direction, Margaret rushed to the door, but before she could open the door, it was back. Margaret found herself staring through the window at a shrunken face that looked like that of a mummy. Its yellow-green eyes gleamed like the cat's eyes. She wanted to scream, but she was so frightened she could not make a sound. The creature broke the window glass, unlocked the window, and crawled inside. Margaret tried to flee, but the creature caught her. It twisted its long, bony fingers into her hair, pulled back her head, and sank its teeth into her throat. Margaret screamed and fainted. When her brothers heard her piercing scream, they rushed into her room. By the time the door unlocked, the creature had fled. Margaret lay on the floor, bleeding and unconscious. While Paul tried to stop the bleeding, David chased the creature down the hill towards the graveyard, but he lost sight of it. The police, who thought it was the work of an escaped lunatic who believed he was a vampire. When Margaret recovered, her brothers wanted to move to a safer place where it would be harder to break in, but Margaret refused. The creature would never come back. She was sure of that, but just in case, Paul and David began to keep loaded pistols in their rooms. One night, months later, Margaret was awakened by a scratching sound at the window. When she opened her eyes, there was the same shrunken face staring at her. That night, her brothers heard cries in time. They chased the creature down the hill, and David shot it in the leg. But the creature managed to scramble over the graveyard wall and disappeared near an old burial vault. The next day, Margaret and her brothers watched as the sexton of... What's that? And inside was a horrifying scene. Broken coffins, bones, and rotting flesh were scattered all over the floor. Only one coffin had not been disturbed. When the sexton opened it, there lay the creature with the shrunken face that had attacked Nugget. The telltale bullet was in its leg. They did the only thing they knew to rid themselves of a vampire. The sexton built a roaring blaze outside the vault and fed the shrunken body to the flames. They watched the body burn until nothing remained but ashes. Creepy.